Hi and welcome. I'm Sherri Raftery, and this is Helping You Take Center Stage, Public Speaking and Leadership Tips. Today I have a guest, Morris. He's a World War vet, community activist. He also has a cable station on Revere TV, Veterans and Community. He's a husband, father, grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather. Also an engineer, community activist, volunteer, and leader. And please help me welcome Morris.
Thank you for inviting me, Sherri. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your show.
It's an honor to have you today. Well, briefly, we're going to go over a little bit about your background and talk about what you're doing today. So we're going to talk about where you're from, where you grew up, from New York, and tell us a little bit about that. And
Well, I was born on the east side, we lived on the east side of New York, but I was born in Brooklyn. And then I lived on the east side till I was about 3 years old. Then we moved to Brooklyn, the Brownsville section of Brooklyn. From there, we moved on to the Canarsie section of Brooklyn.
Okay.
I got my education in Canarsie, and I went to the Harran High School in New York.
Very nice.
And between public school and high school, I wasn't a problem child, but I did problem things such as running away from home and things like that, which I'll go into later because some of those things that I ran away from home were good. Good things. I mean, I got a good experience, you know, from the outside world. So I'll tell you a little about that later.
Well, I understand that you were born in July 8th?
7th.
July 7th, 1929, so you just celebrated your 85th birthday. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you were going to tell me a little bit more about your family, your mom, dad, siblings.
Yep. My mom come from Russia. She was born in a town called south of Moscow, Pushkino. And my father was born in Germany.
Okay.
So I was of German-Russian descent, which is quite a combination when you think of it.
Sounds like
My father and my mother came to this country in 1927.
Wow.
So 2 years later,
Yeah,
just truly came out right here, which I was lucky because if they had remained in Germany, you wouldn't be having me as your guest because when Hitler came into power, he wasn't too friendly to the people of my faith.
Oh, gosh.
So,
do you have siblings as well?
yep, I have 5 brothers. I'd like to mention their names if I could.
Yes, please, absolutely. Are they with
I'm
us?
the oldest of the 5. By the way, I just want to get one thing for the record straight. I fool around a lot by saying I have a twin brother. But I really don't have a twin brother. But I do have 5 additional brothers and 1 kid sister. And I will name them. I'm the oldest. And then there's Louis, Bernard, Joseph, Harold, Nathan. Those are the 6 brothers with me included. And my kid sister, Barbara, which is a 15-year spread from the youngest brother to her. So
That's amazing.
there were 7 in our family.
See that? And I never knew that. My mom's name is Barbara, by the way.
Is it?
So you had family. You want to tell us a little bit about the school that you went to, elementary? Was that something that you did back then? Did everybody go to school? Was it required?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I went to the PS 115, which was in Brooklyn, Canarsie section of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We had a strict dress code. We each had to wear, those times, we wore what they call knee pants, like they went into your stockings and they went over them, you know, in the old days. But come assembly time, we each had to wear a white shirt, red tie, and nice pants. And that was the dress code that we had. So they were pretty good on there.
Very nice. So you finished school, elementary school, you went to high school?
I went to Harran High School in New York, which was a technical school, but they had an annex on 93rd Street and 10th Avenue.
Okay.
So there was 2 schools.
Yeah.
And when I went to Harran High, I did not know to one on Columbus Circle, which was on 10th Avenue, but you had to get off at Columbus Circle Station.
Okay.
And there's a story that I happened to see a movie on TV a few years back, and it was called The House on 92nd Street.
I've heard of that.
That was a movie about the German espionage in America. The funny thing about it, they had a bookstore on Columbus Circle, and we used to walk by it. We never knew about that bookstore. I mean, we saw it, but we never thought of it as anything but a bookstore. It happened to be an espionage where they would drop off messages on it was called Lang's Bookstore.
Wow.
And the spies would come in there, because this is what the picture, we didn't know that.
Right.
And they would drop their messages in the book, or they would have like a certain page if they wanted a code.
Wow.
For example, they would take a certain book and they would say like page 292, and they had like numbers 4, 8, 10, 12, and they represented the letters of that page in that book. So they had a good code system up there. So I thought you'd be like that.
I like that. Tell me a little bit about the economy back then, too. You were
Oh, the
mentioning
economy
things
at that
cost
time.
like a nickel or something.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you, movies for us was a nickel.
Oh.
I mean, we could get into the movie at night for a nickel
Wow.
if you were under 12 years old on there.
Sure.
Gasoline was 8 cents a
Oh,
gallon.
my goodness.
Yep.
That's great.
Cigarettes was 8 cents a pack.
Oh.
A dozen eggs was like 12 or 13 cents. I don't know what a loaf of bread was. I don't remember that. And talking about the kids, I got to tell you, I went to the Paul Revere School, which is in Revere, and I spoke to some of the kids there.
Nice.
And I said to the kids, when I was your age, my mother would give me $1, kids, and I could go to the store and buy a dozen eggs, a loaf of bread, a gallon of ice cream, a carton of cigarettes, fill the car up with gas, cookies, cake, candy. And I said to the kids, you can't do that today. And one of the kids looked up at me and said, why not? I says, because they got video cameras all over the place.
Oh, you would. That's funny.
So I thought you'd like that
I do.
little
I
story.
think it's cute. Take me to college now. Where did you go to college?
Oh, after I got out of the service, we'll talk about my
that's-
service later, but
okay.
after I got out of the service, I had the GI Bill.
Okay, great.
And
Tell us
if you-
what the GI Bill is. Some people know, some people don't. So that's money that you get automatically.
That's
When you're in the
the
service,
GI Bill of
you
Rights
serve it.
gives you your free education. And they also gave you an allowance to go along with it. So,
Okay.
for example, I was working, I wasn't making much, so I decided, well, I could pick up some extra money by going to school.
Oh,
So I
nice.
went to Lincoln Institute, which was part of Northeastern University.
Here in Boston.
Right, and then I went to Lowell Institute, which is part of MIT, and I majored in structural engineering.
Nice.
Right, and I got a $60 a month stipend.
Nice.
So in other words, the government was paying me to get an education because I was considered a World War II veteran.
Right.
I did not fight in World War II, but President Truman declared World War II over December the 31st, 1946.
Yes.
I enlisted in 46, and that's what made me a veteran, because if you served one day during wartime,
Yep.
you was considered a veteran.
Did you get a Purple Heart too? as
No,
well?
no. I did get a Purple Heart, but not in the war. Playing music at the Senior Center.
Yeah, funny. So I guess we skipped and we went to college before we went to the military. So you were in the military and you
Right.
traveled, and where did they station you?
th-
You
they
were in the
sta-
Army, right?
Yep.
Okay.
The U.S. Army,
Yeah.
excuse me, was military intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I spoke perfect German, which we spoke at home,
Okay.
and fairly good Russian, which we spoke at home.
Okay.
So I fit in perfect with them. And I was stationed in Berlin. My commanding officer at the time, I mean, I didn't work for him direct, but he was in charge, was General Lucius D. Clay, who later became Chief Executive Officer for the Continental Can Company.
Nice.
After him, the commissioner became John J. McCloy, became the civil. After McCloy, the military didn't run Germany anymore. It was put onto civilian rule. And then Konrad Adenauer became the first prime minister, or the first chancellor of Germany after the war that was over.
Wow.
So I was stationed in Berlin, but my job was to interrogate POWs, prisoners of war,
Wow.
to Nazis that were
Yeah.
not vicious Nazis, but Nazis that served in the government, because they didn't want them to go back into government. So we had to find out who they were. And a lot of them would tell you, well, they were never in the party or things like that, but they always had a scar onto their left arm, onto their left arm here,
Oh.
because they did have a number. See, the concentration camp victims had numbers on their hand,
Oh.
but the Nazis had it onto the hair at the SS. So we saw a scar or a number there. We never bothered with them to give them like a police job or whatever they wanted at the
Wow.
time. I did happen to go to Spandau one time, which was in the Russian sector of Berlin. And there was a gentleman working in the garden there, digging, planting.
Yeah.
And that happened to be Rudolf Hess. He died when he was about 91, 92. He's the one that fled to England to try to make a peace treaty during the war to get the British to come on the German side. But they arrested him and they kept him there till the end of the war.
That's phenomenal.
I was also stationed in Salzburg, Austria.
Okay.
I went to Vienna. I was stationed in Salzburg. I worked around there with the DPs, but I happened to, they have what they call the Mirabelle Gardens there. They have the Passion Play there. I happened to see that.
Okay.
I went by the house where Mozart was, Amadeus Mozart,
Yes.
the great composer,
Yes.
was born there.
Oh, wow.
I also went to a town called Bad Ischl. And working in that town, I happened to get directions from them because we got lost. I always seem to be getting lost. But anyway, his name was Franz Leha, and he wrote the big operetta, The Merry Widow.
Wow.
You ever hear of that?
Oh,
The
wow.
Merry Widow?
Wow.
Well, he wrote that, and he gave us direction how to get back to where we were supposed to go on there.
Without a GPS.
Beg your pardon?
Without the GPS.
Yep.
Actually, those were for GPS were global processing systems for the military, weren't they?
We didn't have that then.
Right, but they were built because
Because of the military,
right.
right.
So I want to go to Boston now. You came to Boston from New York.
Yep.
Why? And was it for
Because
school?
my wife came from here,
Okay, so
my
tell us-
future wife. But I got to tell
Yes.
you want to know how I met my
Yes,
wife?
I do.
Let me tell you, this is a story.
Ruth?
I was stationed in Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Okay.
I took my basic training, and that's right outside of Trenton. So I come home on furlough one time with the Army uniform, and you know, kids, even though I was 17, and I felt big because I had an Army uniform on, but I was nothing but a private, you know, just
Yeah.
in the Army. And I was walking up Avenue L in Brooklyn. That's the main street up there. And I happened to see a baseball rolling down, so I stopped to pick it up, and it was one of the kids up on top that let it get through, and I picked it up and I threw it at him. And he saw me in the Army uniform, and he went, "Wow, you're in the Army." I says, "Yeah." So I gave him back the ball. Then his sister came out and called him in for lunch. Well, his sister was Ruth, who happens to be my wife today
Yes.
of 65 years.
Yay.
So the next day, so when Ruth went back, she brought him something, and she went back in, and I said to the kid, "Can I come and catch ball with you? Would you like to catch ball the next day?" And he said, "Sure, sure, sure." So that was the way I got my foot in the door.
Yeah, she offered you a sandwich the next day, right?
Yep. She brought him a sandwich, and she brought me a sandwich. And
That's
then
awesome.
we got to talking, and
Yeah.
then we went down. There was a park there. We used to walk around the park at night,
Right.
you know, which was nice because at that time things were safe. And you could go out at night
Yes.
and walk around the park.
Right.
I asked her to go to the movie. See, we went to see the Canarsie Theater, the movie. Then we went to Times Square, which is New York, up to the Paramount Theater.
Good.
Which they had live Broadway shows there. I mean, like they had Harry James Orchestra, Frank Sinatra, Johnny Ray. The big stars of the day were up there. So, and by the way, we could get into the movie in the morning at the Paramount. Because I know I shouldn't say this, but we played hooky sometimes.
This is in Boston, right?
This is New York. No.
Okay, now you're in the Paramount, New York.
Yeah, because
Okay.
my high school, I said, was on 59th Street and 10th Avenue,
Yes.
Columbus Circle.
Yes.
42nd Street was 2 steps before that.
Okay.
It was 42nd, 49th, and then Columbus Circle.
Okay.
So we had to go by the Paramount Theater. So we just, there was a bunch of us, 4 or 5 kids that we hung around with. And for a dime, we could go into the Paramount in the morning and see a live show and see a movie.
Nice.
And when I was a kid, and I mentioned to you for the nickel, we could see 2 movies and a chapter, like the Superman, Dick Tracy, and things like that. So
That's
it was
really
good old
good.
days.
I like that. I like that a lot. So Ruth lived here. She was from Salem, Massachusetts,
Right,
correct?
the House of 7 Gables and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Salem Witch House.
Right. Now, you said that her father owned a grocery store in New York?
Yeah, he owned it on Avenue L, a corner, well,
Yeah.
not quite on the corner, but I remember the street was Rockaway Parkway
Okay.
and Avenue L. And right on the corner, if you were walking from 98th Street to Rockaway Parkway, which was the next street, up about 4 stores, because there was a lot of stores
Yes.
there. Her father owned a grocery store there. And they had a dog by the name. Pinky, I think his name, or Binky, whatever it was. He wasn't crazy about me.
Oh,
But I still do love animals, even to this day.
yes.
So
So tell me about your children. You came to Boston and you had Susan, Janet, Barry. So
I
tell
had
about-
Susan, Janet, and Barry. Barry got killed because he had a brain problem with
Yeah.
a tumor up there.
Yeah.
So he.
in 1997, right?
Yep, right.
Now, Barry was my best friend.
I know that.
When I lived on North Shore Road in Revere. So my front door was North Shore Road, and we would go to the Walcott School. But my back door was Standish Road,
Well,
which is your street.
right.
And you were like 6 houses away from me. we lived around the corner from Saratani's and the Suffolk Downs racetrack. And so I would basically spend a lot of days, years, at your house with Barry. And
Yeah, from 5 to about 10.
yeah, from from first to fifth grade.
Yep.
And it was actually pretty awesome. You definitely let him be creative. I remember him having like Halloween parties and just.
Excuse me, go
He
ahead.
could make forts. You had a pool. It was a lot of fun. It was a nice time for me to come visit you and
We never
Barry.
used that pool after he passed away.
Oh, okay,
Never used it. We let it go to pot, but
Yeah.
My wife and I,
Yeah.
we just couldn't
Yeah.
do that in there.
Yeah. So Barry, I remember in fourth grade, Mrs. Cook was our fourth grade teacher. She's pretty phenomenal, Francine Cook. And she created this yearbook. She was well before her time. Because back then when you would make a copy, it was kind of like you would roll this paper and it was purple ink on it. You
Right.
could smell it when it's fresh. And she made us these yearbooks, like little small, this size but like thin. And she would have us, all our photos, and then she would ask us questions. And someone wrote a whole story. And it said in it that I would be Sherri Raftery would be a host or commentator, and Barry would be the cameraman.
Right.
So the irony is that you're here and you do television, and you sponsored me to get my television show. So I
It
think
was a pleasure and an honor, and I
No.
couldn't have done it for a better person,
Yeah,
Sherri.
it's great, and I'm glad that we actually reconnected last year.
I have to tell you something. We wanted to adopt you because you didn't have your
Yes,
parents at the time.
That's right.
And after, I think you were after 10 years old
Yeah.
when you moved to East.
I went to Nazareth and then the Home for Little Wanderers.
Okay. Well, we tried to find out where you were.
Yeah.
We looked all over. Ruthie and I, we went up to the State House. We did.
Thank you.
We went up to City Halls in Chelsea and Everett and Lynn to find out about you.
Thank you.
We can't give the information. A lot of the towns didn't even know you. But no matter when we asked, what we wanted to do,
Right.
they couldn't give us any information. So after about a year or two, we just gave up on it. I'm sorry that we did because you could have been my stepdaughter.
I know.
Because you're the same age as mine.
Exactly, and I'm still waiting to be adopted, so there's still time if you guys want to adopt me.
Okay. Yep.
Love you. All right, so then we'll talk about your grandchildren. You got a lot of grandkids now, don't you?
Yep. Can I mention some of them?
Of course, go ahead. Well, yeah, of
I
course.
got, sad. One of my grandchild is very sad.
Oh,
She graduated from the University of South Carolina in nursing.
yeah,
She went to work as a nursing in North Carolina.
okay.
She was standing on the sidewalk and a car come zooming down, a drunk driver, plowed right into her head on. They took off. The police never found him, and she's been crippled ever since.
Oh my gosh.
She can hardly walk and hardly talk.
That's
So,
horrible.
yep.
And she was just finishing nursing school.
She finished nursing
Yeah,
school.
she was about to
right.
come be a
That
nurse.
was Lindsay, right.
That's a shame.
I had another daughter, Lauren, who's a school teacher.
Yeah?
Yep. Smart kid.
Yeah.
And I got 3 grandchildren.
Nice.
Sienna, Sienna and Tiara.
Yeah.
Right. Both of my daughters,
Susan.
one of them, Susan, married an Italian boy,
Okay.
and Lauren also married an Italian boy. So I guess I got
Yeah.
a lot of Italians
Yeah.
in my family in there.
That's
So
awesome.
I have the kids.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the volunteer work that you do. You do a lot of volunteer work in the community. You're like a community activist.
Oh, well, I'm not an activist, but I do
I would
like to
say-
do to help
Yeah, you do
to
your
help
part.
people.
I know that you've been helping out with the casino. You're speaking out.
Oh yeah, I am strictly for the casino. I
Yes.
make no bones about
Yeah.
that because I think the casino would be the best thing for the city of Revere.
Right.
Especially now, well, we had this tornado
Yes.
and
Oh,
money
that's-
has to come in.
Right.
We need jobs. Now, a lot of the businesses, if you notice on Broadway,
Yes.
were
Yeah. Trampled.
I like to
Yeah.
use the word decapitated
Right.
because of the roofs
Roofs
coming
coming
off,
off,
windows broken,
broken, yeah.
siding coming
Yes.
off on there. So a lot of them had to lay off their help because
Yeah.
if they're not making money, they can't afford to
Right.
pay them because they have to refurbish the building.
Yes.
FEMA, from what I understand, is not going to give the city any.
And that is concerning to me that they wouldn't help.
That I don't understand
Right.
either, but laws are laws. They said they had
Yeah.
a certain way of doing things,
Right.
and we just didn't fit into that way. So
Oh.
our Mayor, Dan Rizzo,
Right.
God bless him.
Phenomenal, right?
Yep, went ahead, and he's making a fund for people to donate money to help rebuild the city
Okay.
where it got
Yeah.
injured.
So that day, I was coming down 107 from Saugus to go to East Boston, where I work at the Chamber, and I'm driving up to the Rotary, And then all of a sudden, like it was this gust of wind, and everything, I could see everything flying around. And so I was praying that I could at least get into the driveway of the Dunkin' Donuts just to sit and wait to see what would happen, because it was almost like you couldn't do anything because everything was whipping in the wind, and you could see things flying, and it was just very, very scary. I've never experienced anything like that. I don't know if you've ever been in a tornado before, but I don't think anybody even knew it was coming. It was
Sherri, I got to tell you, I was at the senior center.
Okay. Yeah. And
at 9:20.
Yes.
9:20.
Yes.
We felt the building shake, the lightning, like a lightning, you know,
Yeah.
and like a roar coming down our alley. A roar. I thought it was like a plane coming through there or something else. And it only lasted for a few seconds.
Right, right. And the air conditioner.
The air conditioner on our roof blew off the roof across the building, landed on a car, a truck, excuse me, and flattened the truck right to the floorboard. I didn't see any damage except I saw some cracks on my car, which was parked adjacent to the building. But the side that was facing the building was all pitted from broken glass flying, pitted the whole side of my car. The pebbles coming off the roof pitted the whole side of the car. Trees coming down that were laying in the yard, which, by the way, the city of Revere did a beautiful job in cleaning it up. Within 2 days, we were able to travel like nothing ever happened.
That's true. Yeah.
So we've got to say thank you to the police department. I got to do that.
First
To
responders.
to Chief Caffarelli, thank you for what you did, and especially the fire chief, Doherty, who came to our senior center, shut off the gas because we had gas in there, and we were told not to put on any switches, or especially not to light any cigarette or use anything. Oh, we would have heard the big boom in there, so we didn't. So Chief Doherty, thank you for what you did for us. But Mayor Rizzo, I got to give him credit because he went right out there, made sure everything was going to function right. The city hall had a lot of damage to it, and within 3-4 days, back in business.
Well, we're going to be praying for all the businesses and the folks in town.
That's why we need the casino here, because they would help us. And by the way, people don't know that. Mohegan Sun, when they heard that the mayor was taking funds, I'm not going to mention the amount, donated a substantial amount of money to the tornado fund. So Mohegan Sun, as I always say, thank you for your service, because they do not give us lip service, but they sure give us a lot of community service. And I hope when the Gaming Commission hears this, they remember to put them right in. That would be a good contribution that the Gaming Commission could make to give us the casino.
That's right.
They don't have to give us money, just give us the casino.
Very good. So now your television show, it's veterans and communities. So tell us a little bit about what you do with your television show and what you have.
I didn't want, first of all.
Yeah, how did it come about?
It came about, Nick Boer sent me up here with a piece of paper that he wanted to put onto the scrolls.
Tell
on
us
the
who Nick Boer is for the folks who don't know.
Oh, Nick Boer is our Commissioner of Revere Veteran Service in Revere.
Okay.
One of the best ones, by the way, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So he said, here's a piece of paper, Morris. Go up there and tell Mr. Dunbar to put it on TV. So I was going up there. So Bob said to me, why don't you put it on TV? I says, doing what? He says, well, say something. I says, I don't know anything about television. So, say something. You got nothing to lose. So I sat down there. I talked about it, and we put it on a scroll. Then he came over to me. He says, why don't you do a TV show for veterans? I says, a TV show? He says, yeah, do a half-an-hour show. I says, okay, and we'll do one every 2 weeks. So we'll do 2 shows a month. That would be 24 a year, right?
Nice.
Two a month, 12,
Right,
24.
And you're ahead of yourself now. Because you do a bunch.
I got to tell you what happened. No, the reason I'm laughing, we've only been physically 14 months because we take the summer off, but not this summer. But anyway, we're up to over 160 shows so far doing this here. And we've had some great, great, great people from the city of Revere. We've had some great community veterans, people who do not never served in the service. But you know, a veteran is a veteran. You could be a veteran ball player, a veteran pitcher, a veteran lawyer, a veteran that does work for the community. As long as you do good things for the community, and you are in the military service, we want to honor you for your service. And we also want to honor the community veterans. And by the way, before you leave here, we usually give flags to great people that come on our show. And I'm sorry I did not bring the flag here, but make sure to remind me before you leave here, Sherri, on behalf of the Revere Veterans Service and the Revere Allied Veterans Council and the City of Revere, we're going to give you a nice flag as a memory.
I appreciate that. And speaking of that, you wanted to talk about Operation Troop Support?
Yep, Operation Troops. Yep, two things I'd like to talk about. We still got about a few minutes left.
Yeah.
Operation Troop Support mails packages to the troops for Christmas, for the holidays.
Right.
But they mail it all year long. I mean, it's not just, I say Christmas, it's all year long.
Right.
So people donate money to Operation Troop Support. The one in charge of it is a man out of Danvers, Massachusetts, an ex-colonel. His name is Colonel Richard Moody.
Okay.
So Colonel Richard Moody, thank you for your service and thank you for what you do too. The other one is a little sad because we also collect money for the flags for Bourne Cemetery for the veterans that are buried there. Mr. Paul Monty, whose son Jairus C. Monty was a Medal of Honor recipient who got killed in Afghanistan trying to save other troops. He himself gave up his life. We collect money for the flags of them. The one who originated that in Revere really is a gentleman who owns a funeral home. His name is Paul Bonfiglio.
Right.
He's the one that started with the flags. Every Veterans Day, which is in November, we go down to Bourne and we put flags on the graves of the ones that are buried there.
That's right.
So Paul, thank you for what you do. Paul Monty, thank you for what you do.
Yeah. And Bruno, Paul Bruno was my science teacher when I went to Nazareth Academy.
Right, he's part of the Bonfiglio Funeral Home too.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you if you can give a public speaking leadership tip to the good folks, and I know that you do a lot of speaking in leadership, so can you give us a tip? What would you think?
Well, the only thing is first of all, a lot of people are very shy when they first come up. I know I was too. But after a while, I went to the library to get a book on public speaking. And that's how I found out to say certain things or not to be honest with the people and throw a little humor into it. You know, people come in there like shaking something. Tell them a little joke, tell them a little funny story, but most of all, tell them the truth. Because that's the one thing when you're public speaking and you got to repeat yourself, you can never really remember a lie, but you certainly can always remember the truth. And that's the way I look at things. I try to keep people happy, smiling, and jovial.
Well, you always have the joke of the day, definitely.
Well, no, I don't have the joke of the day. I say it at night sometimes.
He's very funny. He's holding back. But I wanted to present you The Wrecker. It's by Clyde and Coulser and Justin Scott. It's a New York bestseller.
What's it
New
about?
York Times bestseller. So I thought maybe you would like that from being from New York.
Right. Would you autograph that for me?
I certainly will. And again, I wanted to thank you for coming on my show. It's always good to see you, and I appreciate everything. I know that some people call you by your first name, Morris. Some people call you by your last name, Morris. And
I don't care. Just call me.
I used to call you Mr. Morris because back then we would say Mr. and Mrs. We would never say the parent first name or last name. But Morris, it's always great to have you. You're hysterical. You're fun. You're a great advocate, great leader, great veteran, and great advocate for Revere especially. And I want to thank you again.
And I want to say, Sherri, it was an honor for me to come on your show. It was really, because, I mean, you do great shows, and you do great guests, so to pick me to be one of your guests.
Thank you again. And again, this is Public Speaking Leadership Tips. If you would like to be a guest on my show, Sherri Raftery, please, you can email me at sherri.raftery@aol.com. You can also call my cell, 978-235-2035. In addition, I have on Facebook, I have Helping You Take Center Stage Public Speaking Leadership Tips page. And I also have a blog, Helping You Take Center Stage. Thank you.